Disney just dropped the official teaser trailer for a live-action remake of Mulan, except it sure ain't Disney's Mulan. Now, Disney has often based their original animated movies off of historical stories or fairy tales and then adapted them for a more general audience, while adding their own flair for musicality, humor, and most importantly, fun, and the original Mulan was no exception. It's one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, certainly top 3, and it's based on an ancient Chinese folktale about a woman named Hua Mulan, who disguises herself as a man and joins the army in her aging father's place. Sounding familiar? But where the story differs is that she serves in the army successfully as a male for 12 years without ever being discovered, refusing to accept any awards or accolades for her service until she comes home to her village, dresses in her old clothes, and reveals herself to her comrades, who are understandably like, what the fuck? There are other stories that incorporate her character and change things up, but Mulan is largely believed to have never been a real person and is more of a legend. So Disney takes this character, changes her name to Fa Mulan, adapts it into a fun and hilarious story that keeps the main plot point of joining the army as a man, but adds some Disney twists to make it fun for kids and adults alike, creating the characters of Mushu as the bumbling guardian dragon and Shan Yu as a scary, worthwhile villain. Mulan is maybe the funniest Disney movie ever made. Like, don't at me, but rewatching it as a teenager, I was laughing my ass off for a lot of it. The grandmother is one of the best characters they've ever created, to say nothing of Mushu, and it wouldn't be a Disney movie if it didn't have a horse with a personality. Apparently, Disney received some criticism from China for the story being too different from the myths, and apparently some people today are using that as a cause for justification that this new Mulan movie is more in line with the Chinese folklore, as if China itself hasn't made literally dozens of movies about this character already. They have. In fact, they released a live-action Mulan movie as recently as 2009, but I can't get behind the argument that it should just be done out of respect, and I'll tell you why. Disney's adaptations of established cultural stories have always changed things for audience appeal. The original Little Mermaid was written in 1837 by a Danish author and talks about how mermaids live 300 years, but when they die, they become sea foam and cease to exist, whereas human souls live forever in heaven. So Disney made sure to leave that little tidbit out, along with the part where when Ariel drinks the potion to become human, her feet bleed profusely with every step she takes on land. Yeah, they should have left that part in out of cultural respect, if you ask me. Also, in the original tale, the prince refuses to marry her because he doesn't love her, and Ariel's sisters offer her a knife they got from the sea witch in exchange for their hair, so this chick's ball-ass sisters are like, here, take this knife and stab the prince and let his blood drip on your feet so you can become a mermaid again. But she's like, nah, I'm too in love with him still. So she dies of a broken heart and dissolves into foam, but then becomes an earthbound spirit and a daughter of the air because she tried super hard to get an immortal soul, so the gods were like, let her have one, whatever. Her sisters are still bald though. Tough luck. Why wasn't that in the movie, Disney? The Danish were probably so furious, but who gives a fuck about them, am I right? They ain't China or nothing. But perhaps I haven't been descriptive enough from the beginning about what Disney's movie being more in line with the actual story entails. We've only seen one trailer, and maybe a second one will show some stuff that proves it's not actually missing, but if their goal is to be historically accurate, which is a weird thing to go for while telling a fictitious story about fictitious characters, then that means there is no Mushu. That means there is no Shan Yu. I'm pretty sure there isn't even a Shang, Mulan's love interest from the Disney movie. The only similar thing the trailer showed was that the matchmaker had found Mulan a match before she goes off to join the army. They never even showed her dressed as a man while fighting, which is the entire crux of the original legend. She was out in the battlefield with her long hair flapping in the breeze, feeling the wind on her titties. Okay, she wasn't topless. I was just trying to say she wasn't wearing any armor to hide them. But that's already different from the true legend. Mulan never fought battles as a woman in the original story, so you can't even say that this remake is succeeding in being more accurate then. Unless the movie is based more on a story from 1675, which is basically 1300-year-old historical fan fiction about the character, whose original story popped up in like the 6th century. I don't like how much research I had to do for this shit. I'm lazy. But imagine for a second that nobody gives two shits about the mythical pretext of this story, which nobody outside of China does, and let's not pretend that the country thinks and acts as a hive mind regardless. Saying China didn't like something is as disingenuous as it gets. They've got plenty of other Hua Mulan-based entertainment options to engross themselves in anyway. The point I'm making is, look, Disney is obviously free to make whatever kind of movie they want to make, but I do not believe this movie is going to satisfy fans of the original animated Mulan. The movie as it is could be 100% fine if it was released by a different company under a different name, changing the remaining 10% of the plot that Disney didn't touch, renaming and moving some characters around, and then you just have a regular Chinese war and martial arts movie. But Americans won't rally around that. I like those kinds of movies, but they aren't particularly popular here. Nobody would give a shit about it if it didn't have Disney's name attached to it, and you wouldn't see all these tweet threads excusing the complete exsanguination of the storyline and characters because all that matters to them is that this movie is another win for diversity and representation. What Disney is doing instead is coasting on its brand, changing the entire foundation of a beloved cinematic animated masterpiece so it can appease China and make more money at the box office? Is the existence of this remake about money? Assuredly, yes it is. But are the story changes about money too, to compete better in the Chinese market? The Chinese box office is now worth more than North America's. It overtook us for the first time in 2018. If this version of Mulan is a hit with China, like they really want it to be, it could flop here and it wouldn't matter. But Disney knows it won't flop here anyway. It's Mulan, and most people who go see movies don't do serious research into the movies they go see. They'll go in the theater and halfway through be like, what the fuck, where's Mushu? But they already bought the tickets, so they're lining Disney's pockets just the same. And it won't even be a bad movie for what it is, just disappointing for what the opportunity could have given us. The other point is that it's just straight up shallow to be like, oh, they're doing it to be more respectful of Chinese culture? Well, I guess all my hangups have magically disappeared. Like, does that really cancel everything you previously thought when you first saw it? Is that really an infallible reason? Especially since the bottom line is still money. Now you think if you say anything you're being insensitive? It must be so hard to have these invisible social justice shackles on you that you can only feel when somebody corrects your opinion and tugs on your leash. It's like an imaginary minefield where you could walk through by yourself all day and not trigger a thing, but if the wrong person sees you, they'll be like, you just stepped on a mine! And you're like, what? Nothing happened. And they're like, oh my god, don't move! It'll explode and cancel you! And you're like, dude, there's nothing here. This is an empty field. And they're like, if you don't turn around and walk that back right now, you're fucking over, bro. I think I've said this joke before. Oh well, still relevant. And nobody knows what the rules are anyway. They just make that shit up as they go, which is why it's impossible for me to respect it in any capacity. Like, who are you to tell me how to think, bitch? You don't know more than me, you self-appointed gatekeeper of acceptable opinions. Who entrusted you with that authority? They're just improvising vigilantes. They aren't to be heeded. Another thing that's weird to me is the stark contrast between reception to the Mulan trailer and reception to the Lion King trailer back when that happened. Of course, the Lion King doesn't have a cultural respect excuse to hide behind. There's not like some tribe of lions Disney's worried about offending, but people had absolutely no problem calling out how soulless that shit looked, even though in my estimation the new Mulan has committed more sins when it comes to dropping things that made the original great. But that's the power of online peer pressure and virtue signaling. 8 different people make the exact same meme tweet like, me when I first saw the Mulan trailer versus me when I found out it's about respecting the culture. They each get 400,000 likes, and everyone's expected to roll over and play dead despite how surface level oversimplified that statement is. The only thing wrong with The Lion King is that it has zero personality and the characters don't do the head bob thing when they're walking across the log anymore. Although apparently it's still a musical with songs in it, so it's like, how are you gonna pull this off with realistic animals who can't emote in cartoony ways? We won't know till we see it. It's not as if everyone dislikes the concept, I'm just saying The Lion King is easier to criticize without the mob coming after you. And you wouldn't think it either, since it's a majority black cast with huge names, which should also check off the diversity and representation boxes that bring the morality guard dogs around to prevent dissent. It's weird and inconsistent. It's also a movie about lions that tells a story we've seen like 6 iterations of already, so maybe the fatigue is overpowering the progressivism. Regardless of any extenuating circumstances, though, all Disney live-action remakes share one thing in common, which is that they aren't fun. They're beautiful or whatever, they're technologically impressive still, but they aren't fun. They feel like tech demos more than anything else. Dude, we haven't even talked about Aladdin yet. Look, I haven't seen Aladdin, but it's the only live-action remake trailer I've seen that still has at least a little bit of that Disney magic in it, that spirit. Maybe the movie didn't capitalize on that, I don't know, but it seemed like they at least tried to make it fun. The Lion King just looks like a weird Planet Earth episode, and nobody who watched Planet Earth would call that show fun. You wouldn't hire David Attenborough to narrate your kid's birthday party. Also, there's no way children want to see these movies. Maybe they wanted to see Aladdin because Will Smith's genie looks goofy, but that's it. They aren't looking at Mulan like, wow, I really appreciate what they're being more culturally sensitive. Mommy, can we see it in theaters? I would like to financially support their conscientiousness as soon as possible. Meanwhile, they're looking at the Lion King trailer like, this doesn't even make me want to go to the zoo. The animated Disney movies have always been for kids, and by that I mean they've been for everyone, but the reason they're also for adults is because they make us feel like kids when we watch them. So if Disney stops catering to kids when it makes movies, then it's also inadvertently no longer catering to adults either, because it's missing the components that make us want to watch them in the first place. If we want to watch adult-centric movies, Disney ain't our haven. They're not for that. We can go literally anywhere else and have a blast, which begs the question of who these movies are for now. They don't seem to be for anyone. Half the people who looked at these trailers like, wow, that looks pretty, aren't gonna go see it, because pretty isn't reason enough to watch a movie. Pretty holds your attention for about 8 seconds, then you're stuck in a 90-minute movie where you've already gotten bored of the one good thing it's got going for it. Even a lot of the people who praise Disney for doing something different aren't going to go see it. We've all seen The Lion King. The trailer showed us a taste of a different Lion King. We can all use our imaginations and apply that flavor to every scene we remember from the movie, and then it's like, well, no point in paying to watch something I just played in my head for free. So it's a tough spot for a movie to be in when it has many detractors who aren't going to watch it, and then even the people who are praising it aren't going to watch it, but at least they support the concept, which means nothing. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter @SunburnedAlbino, and I'll see you guys next time.